Hello my lovelies, welcome back to another video. Today I will be talking about the books that I read in October. My phone just fell. So, let's talk about the 5 books I read in October. Yes, I read 5 books in October, which is not massive, but I've been busy, which is why I haven't been posting much. I do apologise. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying, but I've been really busy. I am in the middle of doing my fantasy reading vlog, which I have read 3 books for, and it's taking me like 2 weeks. Anyway, irrelevant. So, the first book I read in October was The Layover. I don't have this physically, so I'm going to stick a little thing up here because I don't have the physical book. This was provided by NetGalley. I gave The Layover a 4.5 star because it was so good. It was so good. I will read my review for you guys. The Layover was kindly provided to me by NetGalley as an ARC, and I loved it. This book was such a simple, cozy, heartwarming, and easy read. I loved the connection and friendship between the 3 main characters, and the character progression was admirable. Even though the plot basically took place in one setting, the airport, I was not once bored. I was constantly reaching to read this, and when I did, I couldn't put it down. The ending had me laughing but also squealing whilst kicking my feet, finally, and it was just such a mature and perfect ending. The only reason why this wasn't a 5-star was just because it did feel a little repetitive, but that was all. Thank you, NetGalley, once again for allowing me to read this ARC. I'm so happy I did, and I will definitely be buying the physical copy when it is out. I don't know if it was already out, because I looked on Amazon and it let me get the paperback. So I'm a little confused. Anyway, yeah, this took place in an airport, and there was in like crazy amounts of like character progression, and these 3 people kind of just got stuck because they were trying to fly out to a wedding and the flights got cancelled because of a storm. So they all sort of got to know each other a bit more and connected, and they all realized that what they were doing and going to the wedding for was not good. And the ending was just it just perfect. It was so cozy, and I had this on my phone, so I was reading this on the bus to uni. I was reading at uni, like it was just great. I loved it. So The Layover was my first read, and that was a 4.5 star. Then the second read was also by NetGalley, so I don't have this physically either, so I'll stick it up here. So my next read is Anatomy of an Alibi. This isn't sponsored by NetGalley, by the way. Absolutely not at all. This is not sponsored. I just have a lot of NetGalleys this month, last month, for some reason. Anyway, I gave Anatomy of an Alibi 3.5 stars. I really like the structure of this book, where you read from different timestamps and slowly gain more knowledge on the events/characters as the story progresses. However, this did mean that the book was quite slow to read due to having to use a lot of brain power, and it did become a little confusing at times, but I thought the concept was really clever. It was just quite a long read, so I think that was another reason why I read 5 books last month, because I was trying to get through this one, which is quite long. I also thought the friendship between the characters was rich, and it definitely induced more emotional turmoil when the plot thickened, which kept me hooked by keeping me guessing who the killer was multiple times. On the other hand, I did get confused quite a few times with who was who due to so many characters being mentioned. Like, it was crazy how many characters was mentioned, and it took time to get used to that and who was who and what was what. Overall, this was a very gripping and enjoyable read, which I definitely will be recommending to others when it releases in 2026. Once again, thank you, NetGalley, for providing this. I am very grateful that I have read it. So yeah, I did think it was really good. I don't think it was like anything massively special. I just thought that the layout was really clever, but I don't think it's the most memorable, unfortunately, because there are just a few bits that have slipped my mind already. So it was good at the time, like it was enjoyable, but it's not one that I'm going to remember, unfortunately. So that was Anatomy of an Alibi, which was 3.5 stars. Now I read Hidden Pictures, which I do have physically somewhere. Here, it was hidden. I read Hidden Pictures, third in my month of October. I can't hold both at once. I really enjoyed this, by the way. I thought that it was so funny. I'm going to get to this in the review, but I just want to say if you want a horror book that, if you just want to read a horror book, I recommend this highly because it was so funny, but also quite tense as well. So I gave Hidden Pictures 4.5 stars. I will start off by saying that those child drawings definitely made me giggle a lot. It was so funny. Every time I turned the page and I saw a child drawing, I would just be like, and then I just laugh. Like, it was so exciting. Who knew that we'd grow up reading books, going from picture books to prose books and just wanting pictures in books? Like, every time I saw a picture on the other side of the page, I couldn't wait to turn the page. I couldn't wait. It was so good. They were definitely an interesting and effective addition to the story because it helped visualize what was going on a bit better, and I really, really liked that. Furthermore, I love the plot twists. A few did have my jaw on the floor, and I was definitely hooked from start to finish. I really liked how Teddy was portrayed throughout the story. Now, I'm going to butcher this again. Right, Rekulak did an amazing job at creating such a realistic child compared to some other books I've read with children involved. Also, despite some characters being the villains, I actually really liked every character. They all had depth, and I guess you could say they played their part well. Only negative thing I would say is around the middle of the book, the plot did get a little repetitive because you were following a person who was becoming a babysitter, and she was sort of explaining her day-to-day life of being a babysitter. I'd wake up, I'd brush my teeth, I'd take Teddy to nursery or whatever. It was a little bit like, okay, we know, we get it now. But other than that, it was definitely a different style of book compared to what I usually read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the concept was very unique, and it was incredibly enjoyable. Like, the pictures, like I said, just added so much to the story. It was so good. I gave this to my mum after I read this, and she also really loved it. So it's funny because this book came from my aunt. I read it, and then my mum read it, and we all enjoyed it. So if you want a good horror book, go give this a read because it's so fast paced as well, because there's like 10 pages in the middle which is just full of pictures. So go check this out. It's very good. Anyway, on to the next book. After that, I decided to read Frida McFadden's most famous, most popular book, The Housemaid, which, you know what? It was good, but I don't think it lived up to the amount of hype that it got. So, yeah. The Housemaid, I gave a 4-star because despite me not thinking that the hype was quite there, it was still really, really good. I'm going to read my review because everything explains it in there. The Housemaid was an incredibly quick, gripping, and tense read. However, knowing Frida McFadden's plot twists by now, because I've read 3 of her books, I think. Well, 4 now, but before this, 3. I guess the twist from the first few chapters, because I know where her plot twists go by now, and I'm fairly sure a lot of people also do that, because her plot twists don't change, they're all the same, so they're very predictable. But that was fine, because it didn't stop the twist from being any less intriguing and any less gripping. So, I loved the plot, I thought it was unique, and the prose was really well written. I will say, though, I wasn't a huge fan of the characters. I thought they were a little dense and a tad bit hollow. Overall... Oh, could you hear that? That was a firework. We might get a few of those in this video. Overall, it was definitely an intense and enjoyable read that will definitely stick in my mind for a long time. So, yeah, I didn't like the characters very much. I know, obviously, you weren't meant to, per se, but even when the ending happened and everything unraveled, I still didn't like the characters. I do think they were a bit too dense. Just they didn't have any... They were hollow. But I know that there's 4 books after The Housemaid, and I think some of the characters still will go on in those. I'm not going to read them. I don't feel any need to. I know that the film. Oh, yeah, that was the reason why I read this, by the way, is because there's a film in December and I want to read the book before the film. And I know that the film is going to have the other books in there, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not quite leaning towards reading any of them right now. So, yeah, I did like it. I don't think it was the best, but like I was saying in the video I read this in, which was my previous video, the Spooky Reads video, I did say that I think that the hype was when she first started writing her books and the plot twists weren't such a common thing and they weren't so predictable. I think. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Please leave a comment down below if I'm incorrect or if you have any other opinions. I'd love to know. Just leave a comment and we can have a chat. I would love that. So yeah, that was The Housemaid. I'm so glad I finally got around to reading this. And I only got it for £3 in the charity shop. What a steal. What a steal. And then my fifth and final book that I read in the month of October was The Stolen Heir, which I am so happy I got to because this had been on my shelf for nearly 3 years. It's quite shocking, so I am so sorry for leaving you this long book, but I finally got around to it because I was craving romantasy or just fantasy. I was craving it, and I still am, which is why I am currently doing my fantasy reading vlog, which when it comes up, keep your notification bells on so you know when I've posted that, so you can come back and watch it, because it's taking me a long time. So you better come and watch it. Crows. Anyway, I read The Stolen Heir as my last book in October. I don't have much to say on this. I gave it a 3-star. I think it was satisfactory. I hadn't read a Holly Black book since The Queen of Nothing, which I loved. The Cruel Prince, and I loved The Wicked King, but I didn't like The Queen of Nothing because it gave me nothing and it was just not good in my opinion, which sucks. But I will be doing a video soon where I reread the DNF'd books that I DNF'd, and that will be in there. So I'll see if I like it again, because I wanted to get back into Holly Black because I think Holly Black, to me, is really good at writing fantasy and creating a world. So I really enjoyed this, but I just don't think it was her best work like The Cruel Prince, because it's sort of like a spin-off. Sort of like a spin-off. Anyway, I'm just going to read my review. So I gave this 3-star. It was an enjoyable quick read at the time, and it was massive writing, very quick. The characters were interesting, and the plot was very action-packed, where there wasn't much time to get bored. I loved the splash of romance. Every time something happened in that regard, I would giggle and kick my feet. Like, it felt like a reward. Every time a hint of romance was in there, like he touched her hand or he like kissed her cheek. Oh my god, like I would just squeal. It was so good. It was like perfectly timed. It felt like a reward, like we deserved it. I think for me, because I haven't read a Holly Black book since I was like 15, so what was that, 4 years ago now? Nearly 5. I think it was just a little bit too YA for me. Like, I read YA books, but maybe not YA. I read like new adult YA, which makes sense because of my age. I was almost hoping for more each time, and it never came. Every time I turned the page, I was just hoping for like that little bit more, but it was never there, which is kind of disappointing. Yeah, that was a bit of a shame, but either way, it was definitely a good book, and it was really well written prose and a very creative story building, in my opinion. I think she's really, really good at creating characters, a story, a world, and it was very, very fun to read. I was itching for that little bit more that I never got. So that was a bit of a shame. I did then go on to read these Hollow Vows in October, but I finished it in this month, and I got that from the library, and that is going up in my fantasy reads video. So I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to spoil it because I didn't finish it in the month of October. So it's not going in this month. Anyway, that is the final book that I read in the month of October. So I read 5. Yes, I read 5. Here are the 3 physical copies that I have. Anyway, I'm kind of using this as a filler video because I haven't posted in a while and because I'm trying to get this fantasy video up, which I hope you all like. Like I said, it's taking me a while, so please turn on the notification bell so you know when I've uploaded that, so you can go and watch it and go give it a like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video of what I read in October in a wrap up. Yeah, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Give it a big thumbs up if you did. That would help me out massively. And how many books did you read in the month of October? I would love to know. And thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!